Let us nurture the spirit of renewal and embrace the light of the lengthening days. All right, well, do we want to do like a welcome or like, hey, this is who we are and we're here to talk about Imbolc before, or you want to
No, we can just start with a poem or two, and then we can say that.
Sure, sure. Okay.
Break the cold, frosty silence of winter. Come, when the rains have glazed the snow and clothed the trees with ice, while the slant sun of February pours into the bowers a flood of light. This is by William Cullen Bryant.
Oh, nice.
And it is really pouring right now into this bower.
It really is.
At this time of year, the farmers were very careful because of this verse I'm going to recite to you. It's half the wood and half the hay. Half the winter has passed away. We eat our supper by light of day. We still have February and most of March to deal with winter. But we do eat our supper by light of day because the day has gotten to be about 40 minutes longer than it was at the solstice.
Ah, wonderful. So yes, we are about halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. And we want to talk a bit about an old tradition that they call Imbolc, right?
Imbolc, which probably means in the belly.
In the belly. Fire in the heart, seed in the womb. Within or without, my desire blooms. Yeah, in the womb, right? And it is
for
the time,
animals.
The
yes.
time of lambing. Look, it's a tiny little lamb.
It is the beginning of the lambing season, especially in Northern Europe, and so the little lambs are thinking about coming out of the belly, and so are calves and goat kids, and
that's the tiniest little cow ever. Moo or moo. Anyway.
So the beginnings
Things are stirring.
Of perhaps thinking about being able to eat a bit better. They feasted at the holiday season, and then this moon has a special name.
Oh. So this looks like a pretty happy moon, but actually it wouldn't be. This is the next full moon that would be called the hunger moon. Because of the time of the year and what little you had left to work with, and the hope comes in what returns with spring, and the tremoring of the ground and the new season that is before you. But right now we've got a new moon, right? It's
right.
A new cycle. It's actually the Chinese New Year around the same time, and they actually have moon cakes that they celebrate with. But beans, even the Ingalls during the long winter in South Dakota had beans to eat for a little bit of time. That was one of the few things they could put up in their garden. So certainly a nice thing to celebrate, that you still have food. But anyway, the moon for sure.
But limited food. And when the calves and lambs and kids were being born, you could look forward to perhaps sharing a bit of that milk.
Oh yes.
Nowadays we give them separate milk and keep all the milk for ourselves. But in those days you had to share it with the calves and things. So but still a little bit more in the diet, a little bit more available.
And also new eggs, maybe. Your chickens will start to lay a little bit more if they're not off, like just gallivanting somewhere in the yard doing something else. They're stimulated to produce more with a longer photo period, which is nice. That you can also put a light in your coop and hope that you get a little bit more over the winter time these days.
But they do. I mean, they have 40 minutes more of light, most of it later in the day. So they're like, ooh, eggs.
We talked about the time of hunger. One of the books I'll show you a close-up of, and Mom mentioned this just the other day. This is the Très Riches Heures, the 3 Rich Hours of Jean Duc de Berry, or Duke of Berry. And in it, he actually does bring some beautiful illustration sort of bring to light, I'll come up front, but then we'll probably show you this later, but it shows a wintertime scene where folks are warming their feet by the fire, and the sheep are all in the pens still. There's snow on the bee skeps, and folks are chopping wood off in a little wood lot in the forest. And then it goes right from under the sign of like Pisces into the sign of Aries. So as we sort of head into spring, a little bit later than what we're talking about right now. But eventually we hope to get to the point where we are growing things. So we want to start planning that now, thinking about our gardens and what we want to grow in our pots. This is one, right, I think from my grandfather, Charles Waugh.
Oh, maybe.
I think he had a few of those, and I remember you had some
Yes,
like these when we were kids. So we're talking about starting seeds, and Mom's got her seed catalogs, the garden prepped, and maybe do some soil testing, which I'm never good at doing. We're going to try to document and log our trials and tribulations in the gardens coming up over the year. Try to grow more food. It's so expensive right now. Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. Yes.
So we want to grow more, and we're making our list of things that we might try to actually make from scratch and put up with canning, and lots of things to be thinking about for the new season in that way.
But we need to also take into consideration something else for gardening. And that is where another tradition for February 2nd comes in.
Oh, what's on February 2nd? Is
Groundhog
it Groundhog? So we're talking about hibernators.
And we are talking about weather prognostication.
Is this a groundhog? Well, no.
Sadly, he's awfully cute.
He is. He has that paddle tail and big pointy incisor teeth and things. He wants to hang out in his lodge of sticks right now. He's probably hibernating. Who is this? This is a beaver! So he sort of looks like a groundhog if we took him and gave him a stumpy little tail, and he didn't like to go in the water and was in an earthen
he needs
burrow.
To be browner.
How about this one? Is this what we want for our groundhog? He's got a bushy tail.
No, the groundhog would not be happy with him.
If he was gray and had a black tip, he'd be a gray.
The groundhog does not like him.
But so he's a what? He's a fox. All right, off with your other friends over there. And let's see. I have one more of a very small size. Woof, woof, bark, bark, bark. What do we have here? We have a...
It looks like a dog to me.
Well, it's a dog, but they actually called groundhogs ground dogs when they first saw them. As well as, what was the other name for them?
Woodchuck.
Woodchuck. How much wood?
Can a woodchuck
chuck? If a woodchuck could chuck
wood. Woohoo! Actually, turns out, I did not know this till a few days ago, that the Native American word for groundhog, woodchuck, is woodchuck. It's not spelled the same way, but it sounds just like it, and that's pretty interesting, I think. But we have to talk about the fact that groundhogs kind of replaced other European critters in this weather prognostication.
Oh, right, it wasn't groundhogs. Well, hang on, actually, though. We have not shown, let's not go away from
real groundhogs
yet until I'll just show you in the field guide that's a groundhog. So not quite the stumpy tail I was actually thinking, but a nice snout, and boy, they're wiggly. Groundhogs, though, as Mom said, were not the first prognosticators.
Prognosticator or weather prognosticator. It came from European traditions, and there were a number of different things that were consulted for weather information. And one of them is this little guy.
It's a tiny little
He's a little hedgehog. A little hedgehog.
Hedgehogs, because, first of all, there were no groundhogs in England and in Europe. I understand badgers were a possibility as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
they're
badgers.
very large. Badgers.
But even before that, we were amazed to find out that there was actually, I think it's connected to St. Brigid as well, but the snakes.
Oh, yes. Snakes come from the hole, yes. Except that that's an old tradition, too, that on St. Brigid's Day, which is the 1st of February, that snakes come from their holes in the ground and will not harm you. Everyone knows what the hedgehog slash groundhog and roosters have to say, which is, if it is bright and clear, and that
right.
you have a poem about that.
Oh, I know, but where did I put the poem? All right, so yeah, we were talking about Groundhog Day, and with Groundhog Day, actually, believe it or not, there's a connection to Candlemas, which is still on the 1st, right?
Yes.
But Candlemas, there's a tradition where it's, if Candlemas Day be fair and clear, there will be 5 winters in the year. And that, to me, sounds very similar to the whole, you know, if the groundhog comes out and sees its shadow and runs back in, then you have 6 more weeks of winter.
Yes.
But if he doesn't, then you get an early spring. The other thing it says that's connected to Candlemas, right? You're putting your candles away for the year, because there's enough light now that you don't need to use your candles to get a lot of the work done that you need to. So there's an old tradition associated with Imbolc and Candlemas of purification and cleaning, like sweeping the hearth, right?
Sweeping
the hearth is the cutest little broom. And purifying, taking down your Christmas decorations at this time, because you know they're dusty and old, and so you want to cleanse all of that and burn it, right? It's the lighting of the fires and the fire festivals. And this particular quote in here says, "Down with the rosemary, and so..." Seriously, roosters. "Down with the rosemary, and so down with the bays and mistletoe, down with the holly, ivy, all, wherewith ye dressed the Christmas hall." One other fun nature thing that's going on right now are things like the squirrels are trying to find their leftover acorns. Some of them won't, and they might actually sprout and become new trees. But anyway, they're looking for their acorns, and things like the woodpeckers are hammering and starting to drum on the trees on the nicer days. I've had a pair of pileated woodpeckers in my yard on recent days.
They're wonderful.
And I feel very special to have them here. But the red bellies were actually chasing each other around in the trees above our house just yesterday.
Having thoughts.
Yes.
Thoughts of nesting. The eagles are actually nesting right now and laying eggs, at least here in North Carolina.
Right. And the owls. Actually, a friend of ours reported that, a friend of ours, that they already had owlets in the nests around here. And obviously there's other birds moving around like blue jays.
They're all
So
checking out possibilities for
glimmerings.
places to nest.
Ooh, nesting, yeah.
Yeah.
What's happening underground? Blessed spirits and tiny seeds, your bounty will sustain my needs. Full and strong you now shall grow, 'neath sun and moon it shall be so. So mote it be.
Oh, things are creeping around, and at least farther north, the water has stopped being gelid, being ice, and has started to move underground.
May the life stirring underground stir new desires to life within you. May the flames of inspiration and passion be ignited in your soul.
Anyway, water starts to move, the roots start to move, they start to grow, the little mycelia from the mushrooms
Movement underground.
start to move all underground because it's warm under there.
I understand that related to water, that sometimes you want to do a blessing of the well at this time of the year.
I understand that blessings and well dressing, which is a thing again in Britain and possibly in other parts of Europe. There are odd ceremonies in various parts of Europe because a lot of times there are parades of strangely dressed characters too, with giant bells and making lots of noise to scare away. What is that?
It's a parade.
It is a parade.
It's a parade of trash cans. But someone's scaring away the birds.
Anyway,
right now.
But no, this is to scare away any evil, winter entities, evil
Oh.
spirits to get rid of.
Right.
And there's a lot of costumed things that happen at this time of year, like Mardi Gras.
Oh, right. Yeah.
There are lots all over the world. There are different. Well, of course, the southern hemisphere is a little bit different because they're going into fall. But
Oh, sure. Yep. Yep.
but in harvest time for them. But for us, it's getting rid of all of that winter stuff and looking at a new beginning. Yes, I have a few ashes on me.
I don't want to get rid of her, though.
Dust.
No, not at all.
Dust and ashes.
I love my
That's it.
mommy.
Yeah, and
But you said the fire festival, right? So part of that, the burning, the cleansing,
the
isn't
burning,
the cross
right,
of Saint Brigid?
purification. Yes.
Like
Right. There is a saint who is connected with this time of year who actually is probably descended from something much older, an ancient female spring figure. And right now in Ireland on the 1st of February, it's her day. And there's a whole lot of customs that have to do with her.
Her name again
Is Brigid, Saint Brigid, or Breed in the Gaelic. She had a special church called Kildare. So they call her now Saint Brigid of Kildare because that's the place where it was. It meant the Church of the Oak.
Oh,
because
neat.
the word Dara is oak in Irish.
Oh, I saw someone talk about like setting out oak leaves as part of an altar setting that you might do at this time of the year.
The oak was special to her. And they kept a fire burning in her cathedral, a special fire that was tended by 9 people for 19 days each. Maybe for 19 months. Anyway, then she got the 20th month by herself. The fire was unattended for a certain number of days, and I can't tell you exactly whether it was 19 or whether it was 4.
My goodness.
Because 19 times 19 is 361.
Oh.
And the year is 365. And we figured the fire festivals are the other 4.
Oh, how neat. That's
it
cool.
is neat.
Yeah.
It may not be true.
Let the candles feed the flames. Let's circle around, chant sacred names. Beneath the ground lies sleeping seed. On winter's slumber it now is freed. Light the candles, welcome rebirth. The returning sun renews the earth.
Look
But
what
it's
Mom
neat.
gave me, by the way. It was gifted to her by a very good friend.
Yes.
Right? Dawn Miller.
Yes.
My godmother. And it's got, I guess, probably the oak tree on it,
It's
or at
a
least
tree.
a beautiful tree. It
Or
shows
an
the
apple
roots.
tree, possibly.
The roots are moving underground. But it's also, look at this, it's so cool. It's a magnifier. So it's a fire starter. What a neat survival piece, and a beautiful piece of jewelry. Useful and gorgeous all
And
at
of
the
course,
same time.
you're
so.
using the sun to start the fire.
Let me show it a little bit closer. Look at that.
The sun is used with the magnifier onto a pile of kindling of whichever kind you wish. One of the good kinds of kindling is hay. No,
No.
don't do
Okay,
it now.
not mine.
Hay is a great kindling, and there's of course many, many other possibilities there.
Yeah. Only responsible fire making, please.
Right. But in Ireland today, which is St. Brigid's Eve, or Breed's Eve, they are making what they call Brigid's Crosses, which are made of rush. And they're made in a certain way. I've made them, but you use rush that you have to go and collect. And then there's a tradition that the youngest child in the household carries the rush in. Yes, that's you were. And the rush must be soaked because otherwise you can't bend it like anything.
just crack
like
it.
weaving. And you can make them 4-armed or 3-armed. crosses. Either thing is good. And threes are kind of special to a lot of the Celtic things. So the other thing though is that you put in the evening on the hearth, which you have swept with your hearth broom. You put a bed for Brigid, and you have a Brigid doll, or Bridjog in Gaelic, that you have made, usually out of reed, sometimes not, sometimes it's, can be almost any kind of thing, a corn dolly would work. Anyway, you put Brigid in her bed, and you dress the doll in clothing. And then you put a coverlet on her. And then another thing you do at the time is you leave a piece of that clothing of the Brigid doll outside. It's called the Brigid. And that is blessed by her presence outside. If the dew gets on
Say
it,
that 10
it's
times
blessed.
fast. Blessing of the brat breed.
Brigid. Brod is a cloak. Dew falls on it.
Oh.
And also,
I like
Brigid
dew.
is supposed to come. So the
Dewdrop.
last thing you do, besides blessing your fire, which they do every night there, is to go to the door. The woman of the house goes to the door, and she said, Brigid, come in. Brigid is welcome. Brigid, come in. Brigid is welcome. Brigid, come in. Brigid is welcome. 3 times.
Oh,
3 times.
sacred.
And then everyone goes to bed. And in the morning, the hearth is looked at very carefully to see if Brigid's footprints are on it.
Ooh.
And then the brat Brigid is carried in from outside, and everyone is blessed. There are special blessings that have to do with the animals. There's a lot of different customs that have to do with this day. But it all has to do with the whole agricultural year, really, and the return of the fire.
It's, there's so much to be learned from these ancient traditions.
Right.
And how they, this is a sign of hope, right? It's a time of year where things are starting to wake up
The
again.
sun.
The sun is returning. We can soon have new and different things, different foods, hopefully. There is hope out there at this time of seasonal affective disorder and great wintertime depression. There's hope.
Well,
yeah.
yes, and dairy
We'll make
foods
it.
were associated with her festival often. And many other things.
Special
actually.
herbs too.
Yes.
Special herbs
Yes.
that we like. There's one, right?
But things are beginning to grow again. So anything that, okay, that's a special herb.
This is a special herb. This is responsible drinking only, but this is Benedictine. And on the bottle, it actually says 1510. And that's because it has to do with the Benedictine monks. But what's in here is what they treated the plague with, right? And
Yes.
so what's in there, Mom?
Angelica. It's an herbal thing. Like many of the monks, various monks, made herbal distilled liquors.
Out of Angelica.
Angelica, which is a very healing herb, very, very healing.
Good for
Frankly,
respiratory things, right?
We have actually kind of employed it as an anti-COVID thing.
It's not the only thing.
No,
you
not
know.
the only thing.
But certainly this is a precautionary if we feel like we're getting a little bit
Yes.
sick, right?
And there are other, like chartreuse is one of those herbal liqueurs too. There are a number of them. So, but they're all for health. They are for health.
And so we thought we would do a drink to
tiny of
health
it, yes.
and also a toast to the well and to the movement of water and the trembling of seeds and the starting of love and nesting and all that other kind of good stuff.
Thank you.
So let me pour a little bit as well. Happy Candlemas and Imbolc and hello little groundhogs, wherever you be.
Wherever you are.
We'll have to check the burrow a little bit later, but cheers.
Thank you.
So, it's a new phase, a new moon. There's more light. It's a time of hope and, a little bit more struggle as we head toward the end of winter, maybe. But hopefully then the return of spring, the movement of birds, the sounds of geese, beautiful little love songs in the air, bluebirds starting to sing. There's all sorts of wonderful things to look forward to at this time of the year.
Dawn wrote a poem. We hasten to greet thee, O springtime returning to nature, rejoicing in fresh budding earth. For the wheel of existence, which is endlessly turning, has brought us once more to the season of birth. There's more to it, but
Oh, that's so nice. Oh, cool. All right. So, happy spring soon. Coming soon, but not soon enough.
right. Well, we'll see what the groundhog says.
Find inspiration in the flicker of firelight, in the still of winter's night. Awaken, for anything is possible.